Okay, so today we're diving into some really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It's from these excerpts, pasted text. It's dated March 15th, 2025.
Okay.
And, you sent this over, and it really piqued our interest,
Yeah.
especially this whole idea of returning home.
Yeah.
And it lays out this really simple method for doing it.
Right.
So we're going to really unpack that today and see what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what struck me right away going through this
Yeah.
was the unique perspective it brings, especially when it comes to some of those well-known scriptures.
Mm.
It offers this different interpretation, almost like a direct line to what it claims is the real essence.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking about what it describes as a spiritual discourse of Murli,
Right.
along with some really deep insights on breaking free from karma bandhan.
Yeah, those karmic ties, right?
Exactly. And then it even gets into this practical guidance on embodying truth and civility.
Absolutely.
It really makes you think.
It is.
Have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, the path to profound change is a lot less complicated than we tend to make it?
It's a powerful question, and it really sets the stage for what we're going to dive into.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with how this text presents the fundamental message of the Gita?
Okay, so forget all those, elaborate rituals and practices.
Right.
This text argues that the very essence of the Gita
Yeah.
boils down to this simple instruction. Detach your awareness from your body
Okay.
and all your worldly relationships.
Right.
And just remember, the one spiritual father who's referred to as Baba,
I see.
and that's presented as the true essence.
Sajir?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how it kind of reframes the traditional understanding of the Gita's teachings.
It does.
Because instead of Krishna being the speaker,
Right.
this source very clearly says that the teacher is the supreme father, the supreme soul,
Paramatma.
Shiv Baba.
Exactly.
The big shift in perspective. It is.
Why do you think focusing on this distinction might be so important?
Well, it seems to really recenter the entire message.
Yeah.
Moving away from this human figure of Krishna to what it presents as the ultimate source of spiritual wisdom. It's almost like saying, don't get hung up on the messenger.
Right.
Focus on the source of the message itself.
Exactly. Absolutely. And building on that, the text introduces this concept of Rudra Yajna, a spiritual knowledge sacrifice.
I see.
So the idea here is that this understanding, remembering the Father, detaching from bodily consciousness,
Right.
this is the key to liberation.
Yeah, to Sadgati.
To Sadgati, exactly. It's through this knowledge, this spiritual fire, that old karmas are meant to be burnt away.
Which is a stark contrast to just, reading the Gita.
Yeah.
The text seems to be saying that without truly understanding the nature of the creator and the creation, the bigger picture, people are kind of in the dark.
Yeah.
They're engaging in this neti-neti.
It is not that.
Exactly.
Right.
Constantly negating because they lack that fundamental knowledge.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle without knowing what the completed picture looks like.
Exactly.
You might try different pieces,
Yeah.
but you're not going to get very far without that overall vision.
Right.
And that's why the text emphasizes recognizing Chamurti Shiv Paramatma, that specific divine identity as the true God of the Gita, the ultimate source of this liberating knowledge.
And so this understanding leads to what's described as Sahaj Purusharth,
Yes.
the easy spiritual effort.
Right.
This is where it starts to get really practical for our listeners.
Absolutely.
So what does this easy effort actually involve?
Well, it boils down to 3 core practices.
Okay.
Cultivating inner silence, consistently remembering the Father Baba, and developing a clear understanding of the cyclical nature of creation.
Okay.
It's presented as this really accessible path.
It is.
What strikes you as particularly easy about these practices?
Well, I mean, in a world that's constantly demanding our attention,
Right.
Where busyness is almost like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
The idea of just being silent and remembering, it's almost revolutionary in its simplicity.
Yeah.
And then understanding the cycle.
Right.
It's like having a map for the entire spiritual journey,
Exactly.
which would be so grounding.
And the text connects this seemingly simple effort to some pretty profound outcomes.
Okay.
It explains that by maintaining this remembrance, negative karma, vikarma, is basically neutralized.
Wow.
It suggests an increase in your spiritual lifespan.
Okay.
And you can attain a state like being a Chakravarti Raja.
A sovereign ruler.
A sovereign ruler, exactly.
Oh,
by grasping those intricacies of the cosmic cycle.
So it's like gaining mastery over your own destiny. Through understanding these universal principles.
Absolutely.
And this cycle of creation is further explained through this idea of rise and fall.
Uthan or Patan.
Exactly. Yeah. Specifically in relation to the deity dynasty.
Yes.
It's described as this movement from a golden age of 100% purity,
right,
peace and prosperity, to a decline.
Yeah.
And the eventual emergence of what's called the devil dynasty.
That's right.
So the rise is associated with spiritual construction.
Yeah.
The establishment of that elevated state of being. And the fall signifies this period of spiritual degradation and destruction,
right,
which paves the way for the cycle to start all over again.
It's a cyclical perspective that offers this unique way of understanding history and human consciousness.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about how this text views the self and our relationships.
Right.
It really emphasizes that our true identity is that of a soul.
An Atma.
An Atma, exactly.
Yeah.
And this soul is completely separate from the physical body we're currently in.
This is a really key concept.
It is.
Recognizing yourself as a soul, an eternal spark of consciousness, is crucial because it underpins that instruction to detach from bodily attachments.
Right.
The text explains that when a soul departs the physical realm, it naturally sheds all those physical connections and identifications.
So like you don't take it with you.
Exactly.
And this really reinforces that initial instruction to forget those body-based relationships and focus your remembrance on the Father.
It's the core of the journey back home.
It is.
That spiritual reunification.
It's like shedding all the unnecessary baggage for the real journey.
Precisely. And while the main focus is on this individual remembrance, the text does mention a Rouhani military.
And it's a spiritual army.
A spiritual army, and the Shakti Sena, the power army of Shiv Baba.
Interesting.
So it hints at this collective aspect to the spiritual endeavor, although it's not the central theme here.
Right.
But maybe it speaks to the idea that many souls are on this journey together.
Yeah, like a collective effort. Now, moving on, there's this interesting perspective on the cycle of worship and knowledge.
Okay.
The text points out that while people worship all these different deities, Shiv, Brahma, Vishnu, Shankar, Lakshmi, Narayan, Radha, Krishna, this is often done without a true understanding of their spiritual biographies.
They're authentic stories within the larger cycle.
Exactly. They're real stories.
Right.
And what I found particularly insightful is this idea that the one Shiv Baba is actually worshipped under so many different names and forms.
It is fascinating.
It is.
And it's led to this proliferation of temples.
Yeah.
It suggests this fragmented understanding of the ultimate object of devotion.
Yeah, it's like different cultures having different names for the same sun.
Exactly.
And for you, the listener, the text highlights this potential to grasp the entire cycle.
The Behadka drama.
The unlimited play.
Yes.
You know, it positions you as someone who can move beyond those fragmented understandings and see the complete spiritual narrative.
Absolutely. So let's bring it back to that easiest spiritual effort of silence remembrance of the Father and understanding the cycle.
Yeah. What are the promised benefits? What are the consequences of actually engaging in this way?
Well, the text suggests this really significant transformation.
Okay.
Moving from a state of being owners of hell.
Stuck in negativity and suffering.
Exactly. To becoming rulers of heaven.
Experiencing purity and peace.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also introduces this idea of different levels within that heavenly state.
Okay.
Determined by your degree of self-realization.
You're a Passaman.
You're a Passaman, exactly.
So it's like different levels of mastery in any skill.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the importance of sharing these imperishable jewels of knowledge with others.
Yes.
The text really emphasizes that.
It does, and it implies the spiritual principle of reciprocity, where the act of giving this knowledge, like Dan Punya, good deeds, yields its own rewards.
Based on your intentions and efforts.
Exactly.
And it specifically elevates the role of Brahmins in this.
It does.
Those who help others reach a higher spiritual status through this understanding.
Right.
And it even connects the Trimurti, specifically Brahma and Shankar, to their roles in this ongoing cycle of establishment and destruction.
The text then emphasizes this profound value contained within the simplicity of this knowledge.
It's not about how much you know, but the power of each insight.
Exactly. it suggests that each point, each nugget of understanding has this inherent power to transform you from within.
And this is beautifully illustrated with that symbolism of lotus flowers associated with deities.
Right.
Each step you take on this path of remembrance and understanding is said to yield these elevated spiritual earnings.
Symbolized by the padam,
the lotus flower.
The lotus flowers blooming with each act of alignment.
I love that imagery.
Isn't it beautiful?
And then there's this striking image of the simple badge as the true essence of the Gita.
Right.
This badge, bearing the image of the Trimurti, is presented as this condensed representation of the entire scripture.
Yeah.
Like having the entire blueprint in a single image.
Exactly.
It's a powerful concept.
It is.
So much wisdom in such a simple form.
And the text encourages you to share this knowledge. Integrate it into your life, whether you're traveling or just going about your day.
Live it and share it.
Exactly.
And it points out that this study for future sovereignty, for attaining that elevated status, only requires about an hour a day.
Ideally in the morning?
Yeah, when your mind is fresh.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about the guidance offered on breaking free from karma bandha.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Those karmic entanglement.
Those karmic ties.
Exactly, that bind us.
Yeah.
The text emphasizes surrendering yourself to the Father.
With a sincere heart.
With sincerity.
Yeah. Entrusting your burdens to the divine.
Letting go.
Right.
And it mentions that you receive specific guidance on how to actually break these bonds.
Yeah.
Which emphasizes the importance of practical application and support.
It's not just an intellectual exercise.
It's not.
It requires action.
Right.
And maybe even some mentorship along the way.
And crucially, it stresses following divine directions.
Farman Palan.
Farman Palan.
With courage and conviction.
Which means really trusting the guidance you receive.
Absolutely.
And being willing to act on it.
And it addresses this common misconception.
Okay.
That this path requires you to abandon your household or worldly duties.
You don't have to become a renunciate.
No, it emphasizes cultivating devotion while still fulfilling your responsibilities.
Being in the world, but not of it.
Exactly.
And the key seems to be becoming a dedicated helper to the Father.
Through your thoughts, words, and actions.
Through everything you do.
Right.
And detaching from those worldly attachments.
To possessions and relationships.
Right. It highlights this need for a pure and discerning intellect.
Free from negativity and bias.
Finally, the text talks about embodying truth and civility.
In your daily life.
On everything you do.
Aligning your speech and demeanor with these higher principles.
Yeah. Speaking with clarity.
Yeah.
Love, humility, sweetness, and truthfulness. And cultivating a gentle and compassionate nature.
This embodied goodness is presented as a way to make the Father's qualities manifest.
And it encourages this balanced fearlessness.
Not recklessness.
Right, but this quiet confidence.
Yeah, grounded in understanding.
So your words are both gentle and impactful.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's summarize those key insights.
Okay.
We've explored this concept of a simple path to transformation, remembering the Father, understanding the cycle, and embodying these spiritual principles in your daily life.
This, according to the pasted text, is the route to personal growth and a return to that state of purity and peace.
This knowledge offers a profound opportunity.
It does.
For personal evolution and a brighter future.
For everyone.
For everyone, exactly.
And on that note, I'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
What would it really mean to live with that understanding of yourself as an eternal soul? Separate from your ever-changing physical form.
Powerful question.
It is. How would that shift in perspective reshape your relationships?
Your priorities.
The whole journey forward.
Your whole life.
What would it feel like to really live with that awareness of this home that you're ultimately meant to return to?
Wow.
I encourage you to really reflect on these ideas and explore them in your own way.